More people are leaving New Zealand than ever before. In the year to August, 134,000 people departed Aotearoa. It's the highest ever recorded for an annual period, and a 37% increase on the year before. At the same time, migrant arrivals fell 17%.
If your power bill is giving you a bit of a shock at the moment, do not worry, you're not alone. In some cases, they've hit up to $1,000 per megawatt hour for wholesale prices. New Zealand is paying some of the highest electricity prices in the Western world.
The government is facing mounting pressure to come clean on the state of homelessness, with Labor accusing it of hiding the true scale of the crisis and whether it has grown under the Coalition's watch. Senior political reporter Bridie Whitten has the story.
In 2025, New Zealand is breaking records it never wanted. More than 127,000 people left in just 1 year, the biggest exodus in the country's history. Not tourists, not backpackers, citizens, teachers, nurses, police officers, young families gone. And they're not coming back. They're trading the most livable country title for higher pay, cheaper homes, and a future they can actually afford. The reality is brutal. Paradise is no longer livable for the people who call it home. So why are New Zealanders leaving in record numbers? Let's find out. In the 12 months leading up to November 2024, a record-shattering 127,800 people left New Zealand. That's 28% more than the year before. And more than half were citizens leaving their own homeland. To put that in perspective, that's like the entire population of Dunedin deciding to pack up and go in a single year. Where are they going? Over half are heading to Australia, where wages are, on average, 26% higher, and the job market feels more open. Others are chasing opportunities in Europe, Canada, and Asia. Even before this spike, New Zealand had been losing talent to its bigger neighbours, but now, it's not just graduates, it's mid-career professionals, skilled tradespeople, and young families. The kind of people who usually anchor communities are now filling departure lounges. In Tauranga, one street saw 5 houses sold in a single month, all to families moving to Australia. Neighbours said it felt like a chapter of their lives had closed overnight. And while arrivals from overseas are still happening, over 158,000 in the same period, the net gain is shrinking fast. In late 2023, New Zealand's net migration was booming at over 100,000. By the end of 2024, it had collapsed to just 30,000. You see, the balance is tilting, and it's tilting outward. If you ask departing Kiwis what pushed them to leave, many will start with money. Not because they're chasing wealth for its own sake, but because they can't build a decent life on what they earn at home. New Zealand's wages have been crawling forward while costs have been sprinting ahead. Even skilled workers often find their salaries can't match the same role across the Tasman. If you were a nurse in Auckland, you'd be taking home around 75,000 New Zealand dollars a year. Do the same job in Sydney, and you could be earning over 100,000 New Zealand dollars, and that's before counting the lower cost of living on the other side of the Tasman. Police officers, teachers, IT specialists, the gap repeats in industry after industry. Meanwhile, everyday expenses are crushing, and that's before you even factor in the rising costs eating away at whatever pay you do take home. Petrol, groceries, power bills, all among the most expensive in the OECD when compared to local incomes. And when you layer on the price of housing, the financial equation becomes impossible to balance. It's not that Kiwis aren't willing to work hard, they are, but more and more are coming to the conclusion that hard work here no longer leads to the life it once promised. And when the roof over your head becomes the next big problem, the choice to leave becomes even clearer. For generations, home ownership was part of the Kiwi dream, but today it's slipping out of reach for most first-time buyers. In Auckland, the average house price hovers around 1.25 million New Zealand dollars, on par with London, but with a median household income that's far smaller. Even renting is becoming a strain. In cities like Wellington and Christchurch, competition for decent, affordable rentals is fierce. Young couples find themselves bidding against multiple applicants for a basic 2-bedroom home. Some couples have applied for over a dozen rentals without success. watching cheaper listings vanish within hours. For many, the only way to live independently is to share with flatmates well into their 30s or stay with parents long past when they planned to. Housing policy changes have tried to tackle the problem, but progress is slow, and foreign investment in property, while not as intense as a decade ago, has left deep market distortions. For a growing number of Kiwis, the answer is simple: leave, rent, or buy somewhere else and have money left over for a life. New Zealand slipped into a technical recession in 2023, the worst downturn since the early 1990s outside of the pandemic years. GDP has since crept back into positive territory, but scars remain. Business closures, layoffs, and public sector cuts have left a bruised job market. Michael, a policy analyst in Wellington, watched a third of his department vanish in under half a year. His redundancy payout lasted just months before he started applying for jobs overseas. Government austerity has intensified the pressure. Public sector layoffs have climbed into the thousands, with ministries and agencies shedding staff at a pace rarely seen in recent history. In Wellington, the country's political heart, the effect has been visible. Cafes once filled with policy workers now sit half empty. Small businesses that relied on steady foot traffic are fighting to stay afloat. The sense that opportunities are drying up, not just temporarily, but in a more permanent structural way, has convinced many that waiting for the economy to rebound here is a gamble they can't afford. The lure of Australia and beyond. Australia has long been New Zealand's closest rival and most natural alternative. The cultural similarities make moving easy. The job market is stronger, and pay packets are heavier. For decades, there's been a steady trickle of talent across the Tasman, but in 2025, it's more like a flood. Whole professions are being targeted. Australian police forces have offered Kiwi officers relocation packages worth up to $25,000, alongside higher base salaries. Healthcare workers, teachers and engineers see similar incentives. Jobs starting within days of arrival, often with moving costs covered. For many, the math is simple. Higher pay, lower living costs relative to income, and a larger economy with more room for advancement. And the draw doesn't stop there. Europe and North America promise even bigger leaps in earning potential and lifestyle. What used to be a working holiday abroad is now, for many, a one-way ticket, and not just for financial reasons. Because beyond paychecks, there's another pull factor: the sense that life here is quietly shrinking. Journalist Ella Hunt, reflecting on her own move overseas, described how cultural and social life in New Zealand can feel limited, especially when compared to the energy of global cities. Public transport is patchy, nightlife in smaller towns winds down early, and infrastructure often lags behind demand. It's not that New Zealand lacks vibrancy, it's just that its pace can feel slow for those chasing bigger stages and faster moving opportunities. In some towns, the last bus leaves before the sun has even set in summer. For ambitious young people, that can feel like a cage. And once they've experienced the momentum of life abroad, the 24-hour cities, the endless job networks, the cultural events on every corner, returning becomes harder to justify. The question shifts from why leave to why come back. And for those who stay, the emotional toll of watching loved ones leave can be just as heavy. Families are split between continents. Children growing up knowing their grandparents only through birthday video calls. Friends who once shared weekly dinners now navigate time zones just to exchange a few words online. In towns like Ohakuna, school roles shrink until classrooms are boarded up. Rugby clubs fold for lack of players. Main streets lose their hum as shops close, replaced by empty windows and for lease signs. The hollowing out is economic, yes, but it's also deeply social. Communities lose their heartbeat when too many of their people are gone. For those leaving, the decision is often bittersweet. They carry love for the land, culture, and people. But love doesn't pay the rent or open doors to new opportunities. Many promise themselves they'll return one day. Increasingly, that day feels like it's drifting out of reach. Government response. The New Zealand government knows the numbers and the headlines. In response, tax cuts have been rolled out to ease the strain on household budgets. Tourism campaigns are being refreshed to draw in visitors, while big-ticket infrastructure projects promise jobs and investment. Immigration rules are being adjusted to attract skilled workers from abroad. But critics say these moves skirt around the core issue. People are only leaving because they don't see a sustainable, rewarding future here. Without genuine wage growth, a housing market within reach of first-time buyers, and an economy resilient enough to weather downturns, no amount of branding will change the calculation. You can't market away the feeling that life elsewhere offers more. Until that gap between cost and reward begins to close, the quiet flow of Kiwis heading to departure gates will remain steady and for many permanent. New Zealand will always be one of the most beautiful places on earth. That will never change. But a country is more than its landscapes. It's its people, their hopes, their energy, and their ability to imagine a better tomorrow without having to leave home to find it. Right now, that ability feels under threat. In 2025, 127,000 people decided that tomorrow was somewhere else. If that many can leave in 1 year, how many will still call New Zealand home in 5? If you found this video eye-opening and want to know more about the forces shaping our world, make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, and check out our other videos. They're just as surprising. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.